The construction, as it is within your neighborhood compatibility findings, really isn't within your approval process, but it's a good question because we are high above the bluffs. It will be monitored. We're going to make sure it is very, very safe. And if for some reason we don't think it's safe or the building official doesn't think it's safe, we will figure out at that time what to do. I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's a tough one. As you mentioned, do we need to shut down the beach? I doubt it. But within we've had, I think, 3 different meetings with contractors out there making sure that it can be built and how to build it, and it's never been an issue as far as the construction safety of down below.
Okay, I'm not sure I would take my family to the beach and walk by that day, to be honest, if there's that construction up above. I would be very concerned about it, and so perhaps that's something that you can get ahead of, perhaps. I know it's not your obligation as far as what you've said, so thank you for that. And then number 2, I think, or actually which one? Oh, visible, sorry, number 3, finding number 3, the use will not be visible from any public viewpoint. It sounds like that's going to be true from the standpoint of the initial construction, but you did mention that if the bluff does erode and exposes one of the caissons, right, you'll paint it. Is that, did I hear that correctly?
It wasn't so much if the bluff erodes. I think the bigger risk is we have a gunite wall that is underneath the cantilevered portion, and if we were to pop through that, then we would need to paint that so it doesn't look obtrusive. But we don't anticipate there's any erosion that would be caused by the project that would need to be remediated. It's more that we've designed this, we expect and anticipate that everything's in the ground, but if when we start to drill the caissons, it comes out and it's actually exposed, the caissons is what I would expect as well, that if it pops out of the ground, we'll need to paint that.
Thank you.
So the gunite wall you're making reference to is an S2.2. Is that the what I'm referring to?
I don't have the plans, but there's 2 different gunite structures on the property. The one is under the deck, and you probably didn't even see it. And it comes up. If you can go back to the slide that shows the second of the green, right there. You can see on this slide how the bluff is coming up at an upper left, and then it curves up and goes vertical. That's the gunite portion there that hides some of the grade beams and caissons that may be not exactly in the ground, but they're still hidden from view by that gunite. The gunite wall I think you might be referring to that you saw on site is one that is above the little walkway to the north of the home that then you walk up to get to the upper level where the additional caissons are at.
So I have a couple of questions, but I think they might be more appropriate for the contractor.
Okay.
I have one quick question, though.
Okay, go ahead.
When I look at the plans, with Commissioner Capisi was saying, are you going to do the beach? You actually own the land partially down this hill. Some of it's fallen down, because I'm looking at the lot line. So if you have to put fences, you know those plastic ones we see on the cliffs when they do it? You have your own land down there to put it on. Your land doesn't stop right there at the cliff, according to the plans I'm looking at. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely correct. And what if you remember, years ago when we looked at 844 Via del Monte, at one point there was, before the one that you recently approved, or 2 years ago or so, there was significant concern by the folks on Via Samonte, and we actually had a plan. The way we were going to address it on that one is to put a fence in that was basically designed after the IndyCar races, and so it would break away, and the fence, as it expanded, would take the weight and the force off of anything that fell down. So if we needed to get to that point, if there was concern by the building official, like, that's one option we could definitely investigate.
Thank you.
Okay, I think you're up.
So my question is, can you explain to us in fairly simple terms, because we're not construction people, exactly how you propose to build this? What's your process?
Sure. So there's 9 caissons to the west of the house, 5 north, and a little bit more inland.
Right.
The ones on the lower section will start at the south end.
Okay.
Because we're already concerned about the stability of the bluff, most likely we'll drill the first two, pour them, wait for the concrete to cure, advance the drill rig, drill the next two, and work our way north, so that
So
we're
you wouldn't
stabilizing the bluff.
So when you
as we're
drilled the
building.
first two, you wouldn't put the steel in that area? You would wait until all the caissons are drilled?
The steel would go into the caisson, yeah.
Oh, so it would be caissons go in, this is steel above it, and then the next caisson's drilled, steel above it, that kind of a progression?
Right, which means that the process is going to take a while,
Yeah.
yeah.
So how do you put the steel in? Do you insert it under the current patio?
There's going to be some tunneling, and there's going to be some drilling, and there's going to be
Into this, from the outside of the bluff?
from the
towards house?
outside coming in.
Okay.
Yeah, and then probably some series of some full penetration welds to hold the whole thing together as it goes together. There's some amount of rebar structure that's already in the deck that we've had x-rayed that we're going to be working around. So we've got to make sure that we've
So how do you get the beams out and under the deck?
a couple of different cranes working together.
So I guess my concern is less with the upper area, the 6 caissons above. It's
Yeah,
the part that's cantilevered right now over the top of the bluff. And, you know, I think what I'm hearing also is my fellow commissioners have the same type of concern that I do, because you have the Malaga Cove Trail right below you.
For sure.
And you have the coastline, the water surface. When I was there were surfers out, and there are people hiking on that trail.
As there are every day when I'm there.
Exactly.
Yep.
So what I think my colleagues are saying, and kind of a concern I have, is how do you prevent, what steps do you take to make sure nothing goes over the top?
So
That would be tools, that would be construction equipment, that would be construction debris, that would be, if you're putting those steel beams in horizontally, you're disturbing the surface below that deck. I mean, you've got I think a high likelihood that something's going to move and go down that hill.
So you're right in that the 6 caissons that are to the right on that slide are pretty far back. There's
Yeah, those, I'm not
really much of
so
an issue with
concerned about those. I'm concerned about
The ones on the
area
top
that's
of the
cantilevered.
slide will be starting in kind of the bottom left-hand corner as you're looking at the slide.
Yep.
And working our way out. The caissons themselves are actually pretty far back from the edge of the deck as you look at it right now. All of those will be dug with a bucket auger,
Yeah.
with all the soil brought up onto the deck and then pulled back, so that there's really not a risk of any of that soil ending up down
But
on
you'll
the
be
beach.
tunneling in, you'll be pulling out debris when you put the beams in?
It's when the beams go in, they're not going to go all the way out and then come all the way back in. There's going to be some series of saw cutting, putting them in from the top.
Oh,
And then
okay.
going in as a section. I mean, it would be pretty impossible to put a 40-foot beam out in the air.
Yeah,
and slide
that
it in
was
underneath a concrete
Trying to
deck.
figure out the logistics of how you get this done.
Yeah, that.
And also the associated risks that if something goes over the top.
Oh, absolutely. And that's
I mean,
what we
I
want
think
to
it's-
avoid. We don't want to have anybody on
No,
on
it's
our
really
crew in the public
far-fetched
or
that
anything
we're going to close
get
the
hurt.
beach area down for a protracted period of time. So it's more likely that the only solution might be, and I'm about to ask you, have you considered some kind of a retaining device like the fence that my
There's-
colleague mentioned?
I'm anticipating a couple of fences going in. Yeah, temporary fences to stop anything that may or may not roll down.
And this
I
would
mean,
be
hopefully-
below
Hopefully,
the,
that's not ever going to happen.
over the edge. Well,
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we take precautions.
you never know.
Sure.
You never
Sure.
know. Okay.
Yeah, and all of this will be enclosed with various systems of netting while we're working.
Okay.
I mean, not all of the time, but whenever we start getting close to the edge, then
Yeah, I guess
absolutely.
we have seen the plans, but we haven't really seen the construction drawings of how you intend to really go about doing this.
Sure.
So there's nothing on the plans that we see that would show any kind of a
There's no
net
methods on
or
there.
a
Yeah.
catch device of any kind. But that's my concern, and I think I mentioned it the day I was out there to Mr. Rigg and company, that, you know, the last thing you need is to be dinking around at the top of that bluff and either have something go down in terms of a rock, which, God forbid, might even start a landslide, for all we know. So,
That's the last-
that's one of my concerns, so.
The last thing any of us needs.
I have a question, and I think it kind of ties with the letter we received. Vibration. That worries me more, because I think you can control what's going down the hill. I think that there's the fences you're talking about, there's certain ways. Perfect? No, nothing's perfect, but I think I can see that ability to control. What kind of vibration is the effect when you're doing the drill down into there? Is there
Minimal.
much vibration or what?
Minimal. Yeah, a bucket auger doesn't create a whole lot of vibration.
Okay,
It's not like a pile driver.
No, not at all.
okay. Thank you very much.
So let me ask you this. I mean, I think you've got an elaborate and challenging project ahead of you. Have you looked at other options? Is there any other way to do this? It's maybe
No,
less.
We've looked at every other option.
Okay.
We've looked at every other option with many consultants, with many contractors, and this is the only viable solution we've come up with,
The best and only solution.
at least as it stands now.
Okay.
How long is this solution expected to last? I mean, is this a 100-year solution, or is this, with,
That's a better question for a different expert. I mean, I would expect that it's going to last as long as the soil's there to support it.
okay.
Okay, let me add him back to me again. When would you anticipate doing this construction? I mean, we've got a rainy season coming up. You're not chomping at the bit to get out there during?
No, the idea would be to have all of the paperwork and planning in place to be able to start as soon as the rainy season is done.
Okay.
And kind of a follow-up to that, how long would the project take?
This is probably a 3 to 6 month project.
So rainy season ends in April, summer starts in June,
Yeah,
busy season at the beach. Okay.
well, yeah.
Just pulling on the safety thread still.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant at this point? You'll have your other 5 minutes at the end. Okay, let's move on. I do have a card from Daniel Ford. Sorry to make you stay so long, but we're here and we're keeping you company, so you're not lonely anyways. But thank you for your patience.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I'm on the board of directors at the condos that are just on the other side, just on the northern side of it. And you probably know why I'm here, because we had a major landslide back in December 9th, 2022.
Yep.
All right, so we have a neighbor in between the subject residence and our condominium complex. And on that residence, I mean, there was a major landslide. We were told by the city of Torrance, because we're in the city of Torrance, to do a survey. We found out, well, we're okay, at least our parking lot's okay, our bluff's gone, They said the city of Palos Verdes Estates was doing a study. It's like, great, will we get a copy of it? Oh, yes, of course. I've contacted the city of Palos Verdes Estates. I've never gotten any report. I've been handed off here and there. But the thing is that whatever this report is, I think is going to help over here too. Because have any of you visited 2105 Rosita Place? No. This guy put huge trees all around that property. Just today, I went out there and he's watering like crazy. I mean, there's just water pouring all over the place, which is probably the worst thing that you want to do on a subject property that had a landslide, And we're kind of at wit's end. Our view's gone. All these trees, we've lost our view. I'm sure that, probably lost the view on the subject property when they look to the north. Something's got to be done here. And I heard a little bit of information that maybe there is something ongoing right now. What? Because we're at a loss. We really want to know what's going on, and we're in the dark. Okay, and that's just
So this
all I
is
wanted
it-
to say.
This is the activity at the neighboring property?
Yes, 2105,
Okay.
yeah. And it's probably affecting 2101. Okay? A lot of the erosion that they're spending quite a bit to mitigate is probably coming from that other property. But we don't know. We haven't seen a report. Thank you.
All right. You might be, did you come up to the counter and talk to any city people? Because,
I've called, I've, you know,
Yeah, it might-
where do I go to get this report?
Cheryl, I'm pointing at you. You probably have it, right?
You have the report?
I think it's been a dealing with Public Works. I will reach out to the Public Works Department regarding a report. The best thing to do is, are you able to come to the counter between 8 and 10
Tomorrow?
tomorrow?
Yeah,
This will be public.
sure. The counter is right over here, right?
Yes, yes.
That's the counter.
As you go out the door, it's
Yeah.
on your right.
Okay.
Now,
tomorrow
you
between 8
might
and
want
10.
to, if you're available on Thursday, because Thursday, the city engineer is at the city.
Even better.
Versus-
Thursday's even better.
Versus Wednesday, I'd be afraid you might waste your time.
Okay. Thursday, between 8 and 10,
8
I'll
and
be right
10.
there.
Okay.
Thank
Because
you.
I will be here too.
All right, thank you.
That might help you. We hope so. And thank you for coming, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't have any other speaker cards on this item, so we'll ask the applicant to come back, and you have 5 more minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Planning Commission. 2 items to address. The first in regards to the subject property next door, which I've done some investigation into before the landslide happened, is quite a distance away from us. There's an entire canyon in between us, and so I wouldn't associate any geologic of what happened over there. I investigated it when I was working for the property owner at 2101, and we saw, and the geologist looked at it, there's no connection at all. So if anything, by stabilizing the bluffs, we're making everything stronger and there'll be less erosion. To address your concerns about the construction of the project, I would typically say, and I think that your findings are for the built project, it's not so much for the construction. But with that said, we would offer, like in 844 Via de Monte, is we would offer, if you wanted to put a condition of approval on the project, that a construction safety plan for the bluff below be submitted and approved by the city prior to construction. I spoke with the contractor. It's something that he's already thought about. We could put that together, and if that helps you cross that bridge, that this is a good project, we want it safe as well. And if you want to see a formal plan of safety, we're happy to do that.
Great.
And that's all I have.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to us.
I have a question for staff, back to the other Paseo Del Mar project that had the similar type of stabilization that I believe we approved maybe 8 months ago. Did that already get it fully approved, or no, by the Coastal Commission?
It was appealed by the Coastal Commission because we didn't, they felt like we didn't make the proper findings. So it's been resubmitted as a new project.
Will that come back before us?
It will,
Okay.
yep.
And the way we approached it differently this time is with the consultant and providing more detail for all the findings?
Exactly. Well, so we followed up. We took what the feedback we've gotten from the Coastal Commission and made sure that all of first the geotech report addressed all of these things, that our consultant was aware of these requirements by the Coastal Commission, and then also that the staff report addressed each one of those, the findings, I should say, within the staff report addressed each one of those concerns that the Coastal Commission had.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
I like the idea of the condition of the safety plan.
Yeah,
Other than that,
I said,
safety-
I think it's clear that there's a need to address and ensure as much as possible the stability of the bluff top, for both the benefit of the property owner. It's an amazing part of our city heritage, that property. So, I mean, for the benefit of the community, for that matter, to see that bluff top is made in a more stable fashion, and not only for the benefit of the community and for the owner, but for the people who access the beach area below. I think and utilize that area, the trail, the coastline, the surfing access, and so forth. I think to the extent that project is done and done correctly and done well, it's a benefit to everyone. I think based upon the consultant's report, the information before us, I think that the options to address the problem have been considered. And I think what we have heard is that the proposed project is not only a reasonable and viable approach, but the only one that appears to work effectively. So I think the commission can make the necessary findings for approval, and I think that those findings are correctly stated in the resolution that you've already drafted for approval. I would add, and I think all of my colleagues here have the same sentiment, that while perhaps the construction process is not something that we find for a coastal development permit, I think what we're all concerned about is that the project be executed in a safe manner, so that we don't have a bluff failure, so we don't have any debris, rocks or construction equipment or materials or whatever go over the bluff, because there are people right down below. So I think we should add a condition to the effect that the contractor or the applicant develop a construction safety program to protect against these risks, as well as other associated risks with construction, and present that plan to city staff for approval before permits issued. Otherwise, I'm prepared to find myself that the findings for approval for the coastal development project be approved.
Is that a motion?
Janine, do you have any comments?
I just think that we need to make certain that we state everything so the findings will suffice with the Coastal Commission, so this doesn't become circular. I think it's a good idea, the suggestion of a construction safety plans. I think that this is a beautiful property. It's been there forever. So to be able to do what we can to maintain it is very important, but we just have to make certain that we don't create other problems. And I think that that's what we're hearing we're not going to. I think that, once again, I just want to make certain that this is worded right and that all these little things have been done so that we don't have any further problems if we agree to go forward with it.
So I would ask Marco, do we need, I've looked at the city resolution, I don't have a copy of it in front of me, but do we need to verbally recite all those findings, or can we say that the resolution that we've reviewed contains our findings?
You can read any changes into the record, and we can change the resolution accordingly, or you can say that the resolution contains the findings.
Yeah, I think I'm prepared to say that the resolution contains the necessary findings and properly stated in the resolution, with the additional condition that I mentioned before about the construction safety plan.
Yeah.
So I would make a motion to that effect.
I'll second.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries 4-0. Thanks, gentlemen. Okay, lastly, we have item 8, which is a neighborhood compatibility and grading permit application for single-family residence at 2622 Via Rivera. And as in the past, I will ask commissioners whether or not there are any ex parte communications or activities pertaining to this item that are not otherwise reflected in the record that should be disclosed at this time.
Yeah, I met with the neighbors that live at 2631 Via Carrillo, which is Marcus and Annabella Anderson.
Okay.
I as well made a site visit to 2331 Via Carrillo and to 2628 Via Rivera. Neither neighbor answered or the house when I went there.
Okay, and I likewise visited the project site on Via Rivera and also met with Marcus and Annabella, the residents who live at 2631 Via Carrillo.
I also visited the site and met with the Andersons at 2631 Via Carrillo. I also went to Dravis at 2624 Via Rivera. There was nobody home, but they returned, I left a card and they called me back. I talked to them today.
Okay. All right, we'll proceed with the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Wade, members of the Planning Commission, and members of the public. Tonight's presentation is for a neighborhood compatibility and grading permit application for a new single-family residence located at 2622 Via Rivera. The scope of work includes a 2,698 square foot first floor, a 702 square foot basement, 573 square foot garage, and then separately a 475 square foot ADU, which will be reviewed at the staff level or ministerially. All of this is located on a approximately 9,058 square foot lot. The proposed total floor area is 4,002 square feet with a maximum of 4,467 square feet allowed. The proposed floor area comparison is at 137% of existing homes within 300-foot radius, and the proposed floor area ratio comparison is at 159% of average floor area ratio of existing homes within a 300-foot radius. The proposed total building coverage is at 29.8% with a 30% maximum allowed per the municipal code. Proposed total lot coverage is at 63% with a maximum of 65% allowed by the municipal code. The proposed maximum building height is 15 feet from an intersecting natural grade elevation of 103 feet of elevation. As far as grading is concerned, the proposed cut includes approximately 1,090 feet of cubic yards. And the proposed fill consists of 25 cubic yards of fill. The findings required to approve are outlined in staff's report. As a staff's recommendation, this concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have for me at this time. Thank you.
I have one question. Jeffrey, the 63% lot coverage, that includes the proposed ADU?
So the ADU would not be included in this lot coverage requirement.
Not in the requirement, but the 63 number does have that?
The 63 number would not be, I'm sorry, let me step back. The ADU would not be included in the total lot coverage.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Jeffrey, on sheet 1, there's a schematic site improvement plan, hardscape isolation. And I see that the hardscape shading, I guess, is like the driveway and various other areas around. The entry porch and the walkway are not highlighted. Would that not either be building or hardscape?
It would be hardscape, so it should be included in the hardscape.
Okay, and then as I look in the back, we have the pool deck and the spa deck, and the barbecue is sitting on something. I don't know what that is.
I think if you look online, you can see the colors,
Okay.
and that's because it's really hard to tell from.
Are they included or not in the heart?
Well, theoretically, everything that's shaded a color, I would assume. My only question when it comes to that is that the side walkways and things aren't a colored one, so I think we have to ask the architect why some are.
Okay.
Yes, so.
Let's just do that. We'll-
Yeah, we can, I was going to say, on the plan, the steps walking up to the residence are highlighted, as well as the pool and hardscape areas behind the pool,
Yeah.
but not the steps, so.
Yeah, it's just on, I have a black and white set of plans, so I can't tell what's but I know they're not shaded, so.
Sure.
But we'll ask the architect.
Okay.
That's fine. Okay. Okay,
That's an introduction. My name is Chris Gunderson, 24/7.
please speak in the microphone.
I'm sorry.
We have terrible audio here.
I'm sorry, my,
We all do.
Just speak in the microphone, please.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Chris Gunderson, I'm the architect, 2417 Sunnyside Ridge Road, Rancho Palos Verdes. The question pertaining to the entry porch and the steps leading up to it, I believe the observation that you've made is correct, that the entry porch and those steps were not included in the overall hardscape coverage.
Okay, and as long as we're talking about that, how about the spa deck and the pool deck?
I'm certain those were included. I think where we're at a disadvantage is that the blueprinters cannot print in color.
Okay.
And we are, well, did Commissioner Nedick mention that the drawings can be viewed on a laptop and you could see the colorations?
Yeah.
I'm certain that the patios
plans.
around the pool and so forth are included.
So the driveway is a purplish, okay? The footpath going up to the entry porch is orangish, roses. And then the entry porch and stairs is a pink. And then there's a patio in the back that goes over the ADU and what have to the wall, which is a pink. The pool is a blue, and then you have planters that are orange. So theoretically, I'm thinking that those should be included because you highlighted them with the color. Where I worry is that the trash yard, the path that's in front of the trash yard, the stairs, and the concrete footpath outside of the trash yard, as well as the footpath all the way along the other setback, they're gray. So I don't know what the differentiation is.
The differentiation in the different colors was simply to allow for a better understanding of how these different areas have been calculated. There's not an intent to do anything other than make this better organized, which apparently is a failure. So the gray is concrete, but there's other areas that are concrete that are also different colors. So I'm not trying to do a key with regards to material A, B, and C. It's more this area, this area, this area. So my apologies.
Yeah, the only thing that confuses me is that on these colored areas, there's also a square footage number, which is helpful. On the 1 footpath, on the right-hand side, from looking from the street, that gives me a number as well. But there's no number for the trash yard, the path that's on the other side setback, and the other walkway and stairs. So that's where I get confused. And to be honest, I did so many other numbers on these ones that I didn't do the numbers to add these together. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the concern that is coming up is that at 63% of the lot coverage, you're bumping up against the max there, as you are with the building coverage. So we want to make sure that your calculations are correct, and if anything's left out, and you're, on the lot coverage, you're 260 square feet under, so it's close.
Understood.
And I think we need to know, is it over the limit or within the limit?
Well, once again, my apologies for missing the entry porch and the steps. That being said, I can assure you the trash yard, the path, those are all included, but I will tomorrow immediately address this with staff and we'll make sure that we are under the 65% maximum
Okay.
coverage.
And what about the barbecue area? Is that, it's got to be sitting on something that's
That's a good point. That should be included also.
yeah. And in the trash area, you've got a little note on the side, plus 36 square feet hardscape, minus 16 feet square feet landscape, net adjustment plus 20. And I can't tell what you're doing here. Is it the space to the left of the trash yard? Because if you're looking at the site improvement plan, it looks like it's slightly different than the site plan to its right. So if you could clarify maybe on your plan there, what's going on, what's included, what's hardscape, what's not hardscape, when you come back to us with the accurate calculation. Is there maybe some?
I'd be happy to.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any other presentation you'd like to make, or do you want us just to ask you questions?
Either way works for me.
Okay, well, if you have a presentation, please go ahead.
What I would like to mention is that this project initially started with a conceptual ridgeline that was erected. My best estimate after some design studies with regards to location of the ridge, length, and height. That was viewed by the neighbors. It was not received well. Design changes began immediately, ultimately leading us to pushing down the basement level and garage, leading to lower plates for both levels of the house, as well as a shallower pitched roof. So we've been working diligently to preserve what views are at the properties to our east. During that process, we recognized some conditions that were very similar at this property to a home, I believe, three properties to the south, excuse me, and I should have brought the address with me, but that being said, this solution in this neighborhood is a approach that's been used before, where the lower floor or basement or garage levels are below curb level of the street. So we're pitching the driveway down, which of course is a drainage issue, but that's addressed with a good civil engineer, which we have. All that being said, I'm rambling a bit. So at this point, I think my point of all of this was that we've been working with the neighborhood, we've been sensitive and trying to do our best to manage everyone's concerns. I am ready for questions, or I can sit down.
Well, I have a few. Looks like in the front setback, you have a wall on the north side and, well, the north property line and the south property line, which extends into the front setback. And you have two pilasters in the front setback. Do those features or those structures?
Those are necessary because of the topographical difference between the property to the north and the applicant's property. Specifically, the entire street in this area slopes from Via Rivera up to the east, and we're doing the opposite. We are pushing the footprint of the basement / lower floor down, I'm sorry, garage, down. So almost immediately I have an issue with regards to differential in elevations, and that required at the beginning a small curb, and it slowly grows in height as we push down and the existing topography slopes up.
Okay, just my question is, what is the height of those structures? Is it less than 42 inches?
In the front yard, yes.
Okay.
As measured from natural or existing, whatever's lower, because it's in the setback, correct?
Not as measured from natural grade, as measured from existing grade.
Okay, I think per code you can ask staff, but I believe in setbacks, the code is natural or existing, whichever is lower.
Fortunately, existing and natural is quite close, but I'll have to verify, and we'll make what adjustments might be necessary.
Okay. So it looks like the ridge line, the main ridge line, is about the same height as the existing one.
That's correct.
Has it been raised at all? Has the height of the building or the ridge lines been increased? If so, by how much?
The main ridge is 6 inches taller than the existing ridge, approximately.
Okay.
The footprint of the building, if I may, just a little point here, is further back so that when the string lines are erected, the perceived view when you're looking down at the house is closer to you, so the view obstructions are the same. So effectively, it's the same roof, it's in a slightly different location, so the net impact is no change.
Yeah, I can see that the ridge, it appears as though it's slightly higher. 6 inches seems consistent with what I observed. But I noticed you made it rather than a hip ridge, you made it a gable ridge, which kind of creeps into the views of the neighbors in the back. Is there any possibility you could move back to a hip in that main ridge line?
The answer is yes. It's not consistent with the architectural character of the home, but the art jury certainly understands when there are concerns, as you're bringing up, to change the, you're referring to the main mass of the house
right.
to a hip design.
Yeah, it's the north-south ridge, the main ridge.
Yes. So yes, that can be done.
Because my sense is that with the change to a gable ridge, that's where the neighbors behind, at least the neighbor that I visited, that fact alone just tends to impact their scenic views a little bit, just at the edges of the building. And also because the building has been shifted somewhat to the south.
Correct. I did speak with Mr. Anderson in the lobby earlier tonight, and yes, I think moving to a hipped roof design for the main mass of the house would be something that he and his family would appreciate. I know he's going to be addressing you shortly, but yes, that's a modification that we can make.
Okay. And let me just ask you this. It looks like, looking at the silhouette, there appears to be a second chimney silhouetted on the rear of the house towards the south. That's what
There is.
it
There's
looks
two
like there's a
chimneys.
chimney there, but there's no chimney in the plan, so I assume that chimney's been eliminated?
The chimney was eliminated. This is my fault. I should have asked the silhouette engineer to remove that second chimney string line.
Well, if it's gone, that's good.
Then the other thing, on the site plan and stuff, we don't see this skylight with the cricket with a pitch to it, but when you're out there, you definitely see the flags, and the flags appear at the peak to be higher than the main ridge line, but when I look at the plans, there's no number to tell me how high that is. So if you look at the roof plan, I could be missing it, but there's no call out on what the ridge is for there.
I'm sorry, you're questioning the height of the skylight or the height of the
You're right,
ridge?
the height of the skylight, because the skylight looks like kind of an abrupt dormer that's really wide, so it comes up in any case.
Jeffrey was kind enough to phone me this morning and discuss this. What we're illustrating on the roof plan is simply a drainage cant. It's behind the skylight. It's to facilitate water moving around the skylight.
Okay, but when you're out there, there's definitely a flag that looks like, theoretically, it's the beginning of a dormer going towards, but that's what your silhouette, that's why I was so confused out there.
I'm sorry. We've never had any type of dormers designed on this roof. I'm not exactly
I'm just using
sure.
that as a word, because I don't know how to describe what I saw, except for, do you know what I mean? So don't worry about I'm just trying to say, here's the main ridge, right? And you're looking, and then there is a flag that comes out at a height this way. And I'm trying to figure out what that height is.
I'm not standing next to you at the property, but I'm going to guess this flag that you're referencing is the ridge over the gable that is ultimately over the garage. So plan view left, you can see the
Maybe I'm
ridge
seeing it
line
wrong.
going out towards the street. I bet that was the flag line you were
I mean,
seeing.
anything's possible in this life, but thank you. Because it's just hard when you see that cricket. Does it go down? It's just hard. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's see.
It did occur to me that in speaking with one of the other neighbors on via Carrillo, Mrs. Lynch, in the last day or two, she's asked me to push down the one remaining chimney 6 inches, which we have agreed to. I believe I made a modification and shot that over to Jeffrey just so he would know what's been going on. And also Mrs. Lynch is going to be addressing you tonight, too.
Thank you.
Just a comment too, it's just a minor issue, but on your cross-section, you show your ridge at 118, and on the plans, it's 118.02.
Which cross-section?
On the roof.
Sections A, B, and C,
Oh, I'm sorry, all,
on page 1, on sheet 1.
and what?
You're showing those at one, your ridge on the applicant's property is 118?
Yes.
And on your plans, your ridge is at 118.02.
Correct. I will adjust the sections. My apologies.
Good catch. Should we, anyone have any more questions, or should we?
Go ahead.
I'm okay, I don't have any more questions right now.
You want to address
Oh.
any questions about the elevation of the floors in the basement area?
Oh, yeah.
Go for it.
Okay. Well, a couple of things, remind me of that one. There's a lot of grading going on in this. I understand because the garage, okay, but there's grading underneath the long wing that goes to the back of the lot. Do you know how much extra grading you're doing to grade out all below there? Because it's just a lot of grading, and that's one of our findings. So I'm talking about the wing that goes, I always have to look the directions on these plans. I would say that it's on the south side, you know, how that wing now goes almost back to the setback.
Yes, that's
Underneath there, that's graded out.
that's the bedroom wing, and what grading is being proposed there is relatively minimal. This is a raised wood floor framing solution. The joists do require clearance above the adjacent, the grade below. We're basically at the existing elevation of the current pad with the finished floor. That being said, we have to make room for the structure. Since the other side of the house is, the main floor is above the garage and above the ADU, the framing system for the floor wants to remain the same from that two-story type of condition to then the other side of the house. So there's minimal grading being proposed to provide both the crawl space necessary, but then also we do have the pool equipment underneath that portion of the wing. And to do that, we also have to do a little bit of grading so that we can get the clearances necessary so we don't have any issues with regards to fire.
That brings up an interesting thing. To me, the pool equipment, how is a pool man weekly going to access it? They'll have to go into your house to get to it? Because there's no access from outside.
The garage has an access way to the
Right.
underfloor area that is relatively close to the pool equipment. I can tell you that this idea, which I think is a very helpful solution with pool equipment not being allowed in setbacks, This has been approved by the pool contractor. He was involved with the design aspects of the pool and the spa and the equipment location. I can't tell you if he's also maintains pools. I used to as a kid. Sure, I understand. The last thing you want to be doing is doing a lot of steps. But when my client told me that she didn't want to hear pool equipment and that we really didn't have a very good location for it outside of setbacks, this was a pretty good solution. So very possibly pool maintenance will be a little bit more expensive, but it works well for the property and for the homeowner.
Okay. Then in the garage, I thought the garage was just the two-car garage, because I must be ignorant, but it looks like there's a wall between the back of the garage where it kicks out over to the right. So it doesn't have gray between the two lines. So does that mean that's not a wall back there?
That is not a wall. If you look carefully, that's actually a dotted line representing a beam.
No, I see it's dotted. That's what had me so confused. That's why I was asking that. It's I agree with you, it's dotted. Okay, so that area is open. So that means you go in there, okay? So in either way, there's 2 steps to get up to that landing where the mechanical equipment is. So I did some numbers, and the 2 steps appear to correlate with your numbers to 8 inches rise for 2 steps when you do the math. So 2 steps down correlate to 8 inches as well. So if you're basically going down 8 inches, when I look at your elevations, the garage is at 8.5 feet plate height. And then the plate height of the office and that hallway is 9.4. So number-wise, I'm just getting confused that would be 9.2 to me. See, certain little, I know there's small amounts, but the numbers don't add up for me. So that's why I was really trying to figure out what was going on here to get the plate heights that you have on your elevations. And the other thing, when you have the underfloor area concrete pad at 98, I don't quite know how you make it up. Is that going to be one of those areas where it's a trap door that's up high that you have to crawl through? Because to be at 98, you have to raise it from 94.16
I'm sorry, where are you talking about?
Garage.
in the garage. So 2 different areas. So where you say underfloor area, concrete pad, elevation 98.
Yes.
And basically, it just shows from the finished floor of the garage at 94.16, it shows that door going in there, and somehow the floor becomes 98. Is that a door that goes all the way down, or is it one of those things that...
It's just simply an access way. This is...
So it will be above the floor?
Correct. So this is basically found space. It's storage. If it had a ceiling greater than 6'11", I would have to consider it as structural coverage. So what we're doing is building up. Remember, this is
It's still structural coverage because it's below the house that's structural coverage.
That's true.
Sorry, but okay, go ahead.
Well, all I was saying is that we have a property that's ascending as we move back.
Mm-hmm.
So initially, we are, with the excavations we're doing, the house is quite a bit up above grade, like the exterior elevation on the west elevation illustrates. So we have space that we have to have structural supports for these different elements. We have quote-unquote found space, so we might as well take advantage of that. We wouldn't come in and fill dirt there. There's no reason to go to that expense.
I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that if that looks like a door going into there, so with a door, you think it starts at the floor from the room you're going into the next space. But that's impossible in this because the room you're in, the floor is at 94.16.
Correct.
The door you're opening, the floor is at 98.
So the call-out to that opening is a 36-inch wide underfloor access.
Okay, and I thought that call-out was for on the wall between the underfloor area over to,
Yes, my mistake.
so that's where I'm getting confused, because you call that one out clearly.
I can add more detail in the form of notes to this area so that you understand. I'll make it more clear.
Thank you.
For the record.
Great, thank you. And then the other, we just have to make certain that when you go down 2 steps, you're really getting the plate height that you say you're getting out of it.
Let me double check it for you. Steps can be as little as 4 inches, and they're very comfortable, and you glide down them. They can be as much as 7 inches, which I don't propose. In looking at this, I believe that one section you're referring to, the risers were 6 inches each, and that gets the 1-foot plate differential. But I'll double check this.
Okay, that's fine. I just got the numbers from subtracting the 2 floor elevations and seeing there were 2 steps, so that's the only way I came to it, and that's what confused me when I went further. Thank you.
You want to mention the allowable height, too, of those areas? It's not 6'11"?
Yeah, I mean, these areas are considered cellar areas for the city now, and the maximum height to be a cellar area is 6 foot 2 inches. We're not doing 6'11" anymore.
Okay, so I'll make the proper adjustments so that...
I think that your numbers might be okay.
Oh.
I don't know, but you need to figure that out. But the chair is correct that you need, that piece of information is what,
And that would include all the underfloor areas, by the way, not just that space. Anything that you're not counting as floor area in your calculation.
Understood, thank you.
Okay. Other comments, questions? All right, I do have 2 cards for speakers, and we'll allow Mr. Gunderson to have a seat, and then you can come back for 5 minutes if you need to or want to. Marcus Anderson and Kimberly Lynch will follow.
Well, good evening. You guys hear me okay? Yes. All right, my name is Marcus Anderson. First off, I want to say thank you to commissioners. I know this is a volunteer job and we're all here late, so thank you for your time tonight. I just want to do 2 quick responses to what Mr. Gunderson said and some questions that were coming from the commissioners here. I believe the project, that the house that he referred to is 2628 as the other house on Via Rivera that has a garage underneath and then living on top. However, I don't really think that's a good apples to apples comparison because if I'm not mistaken, 2 key points. First off, that driveway is a pretty steep drive down to get to it. It's quite angled. And then once you get there, I don't believe they have any living space down there. I believe it's strictly garage. I could be wrong. I've never been in that house before. Actually, I take that back. I've been in the house once, but I didn't go downstairs. I was basically at the front entrance. And then also, the current project they're looking to put in, the driveway comes, I believe it's pretty flat, or is it tilted down? It's tilted down similar to 2628. Okay. Well, then it's possible that I'm wrong on that one. There are also currently, I believe, 2 chimney silhouettes at the subject property. One is on the south part, one is on the north part. And is it my understanding that those 2 are going away, or one is being kept? One's being kept on the north side, and the south side one is going away. But the north side will go down 6 inches, is that correct? Okay, that sounds correct. Okay, so basically, I wrote a letter, and I believe everybody got a copy of it here and has reviewed it. But basically, the proposed changes to the view, while modest, I do feel is an unreasonable interference with our current view. Now, I've heard the back and forth between the commissioners here tonight and Mr. Gunderson, so I'm looking forward